Next up will be Dr. Brandon Gerig, our research coordinator. Brandon, are you?
Good morning, folks. I am going to take over and share my screen. Let's see if this works. Can everybody see that?
Nope. Let's see
I can see it here as well so far.
There we go.
Yes, I can see it.
There we go.
Excellent. Okay, good. Well, hey everybody, it's great to be here. Sorry I'm not there in person. My wife's on some work travel this week, so I wasn't able to make the trek up as I initially anticipated. So today I'm just going to give a high-level overview of the Midwest region of the National Park Service. The National Park Service supports a number of research coordinators across the country in focal areas. And I just kind of wanted to give you a sense of the resources that we are in charge of and manage, and also how we kind of leverage the CESU to meet our needs. So first and foremost with the Park Service, I think it's important to consider the Park Service mission. So across all of the National Park Service units, our mission is to preserve unimpaired the natural and cultural resources and values of the National Park System for the enjoyment, education, and inspiration of future generations. And so this idea of preservation and protection is really at the core of what we do. And this was established originally in the Organic Act of 1916. When we think about the National Park Service, so since the National Park Service has been around since about 1916, currently the NPS manages over 425 individual units and is in charge and responsible for over 85 million acres in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and many of the U.S. territories. And really our work is focused on a number of facets, including community revitalization, preservation of local history, along with preservation and protection of key natural and cultural resources. And overall, across all national parks in the country, we have about 320 million visitors every year to park units. So when we think about the Midwest region of the National Park Service, my animation's not working. The Midwest region of the National Park Service roughly encompasses 3 Department of the Interior regions that spans from essentially eastern Ohio all the way over to western Nebraska, up to western North Dakota, or as far south as Arkansas, and as far north as Voyageurs National Park along the Canadian border in northern Minnesota. When we think about the Great Plains CESU as it relates to the Midwest region of the National Park Service, the Great Plains region essentially spans most of DOI Region 5, which is within our purview, with the exception of Oklahoma and North Texas. So once again, the Midwest region encompasses a 13-state area, large portions of the Great Lakes, Upper Mississippi, and Missouri River Basin. From a kind of administrative perspective, we have about 2,300 employees across the region. This is both regional staff and park employees, and an annual operating budget on the order of $300 million. And it's important to recognize that about 22% of the nation's population lives within our area, and we have about 22 million visitors annually to parks within our region. And just once again, to kind of highlight some of the national parks that are within the Great Plains CESU kind of geographic area, we have Fort Union, Theodore Roosevelt, and Knife River in North Dakota. We have Jewel and Wind Cave. We have Mount Rushmore, Badlands, and Minuteman National Historic Monument in South Dakota. We have Agate Fossil Beds in Scott Bluff in western Nebraska, along with 2 of our wild and scenic rivers under those designations, including the Niobrara and the Missouri National Recreational River. We have Homestead National Historic Park just south of Lincoln. We also have the Lewis and Clark headquarters in our regional office in Omaha, which interprets the Lewis and Clark expedition and the historical trail from St. Louis all the way to its terminus in Montana. And then in Kansas, we have Nicodemus, Fort Larned, Tallgrass Prairie, and then Board versus Brown educational site. And so when we think about the National Park Service, we have these park units, and we have 63 total within the region, and we have various levels of designation. So they're not all national parks, and they include a wide variety of different sites that are under Park Service administration. So these include park units, along with historical trails, national heritage areas, national historical landmarks, and then national natural landmarks. So there's a wide variety of both natural and cultural resources that we are preserving across the Midwest region and within the Great Plains CESU location. A couple of regional highlights. We have a wide variety of lighthouses within the Great Lakes region. Specific to the Great Plains, we manage 4 bison herds that make up approximately 1/3 of the total Department of Interior bison herds that are available for conservation efforts. We have 4 parks that directly interpret indigenous culture. And then we have a variety of other kind of regional highlights here, including parks that interpret U.S. presidential history, parks related to the civil rights efforts. We have a large sum of linear miles, approximately 1,000, that are designated wild and scenic rivers, some within the Great Plains CESU, some outside, 6 parks interpreting the Civil War. And then we also have the 3rd and the 6th longest caves in the world, which are located geographically within the Great Plains CESU, with Jewel and Wind Cave in western South Dakota. So the NPS is organized into various directorates that have specific different program areas and focuses. This includes things like management, administration, operations, and education, along with facilities, planning, and infrastructure that really oversee a diversity of programs from everything from human resources to education and interpretation to compliance and deferred maintenance. However, the 2 directorates within the NPS that interact and leverage the CESU most strongly are the Natural Resources Science and Stewardship Directorate, along with Cultural Resources. And in particular, NRSS oversees our inventory and monitoring program, our invasive plant management teams. It administers the National and Natural Historic Landmark Program, along with housing regional expertise related to wildlife, fisheries, aquatic ecology, hydrology, and vegetation management. And this expertise, along with that of partners that we engage through the CESU, allows us to help preserve healthy watersheds, engage in Great Lakes restoration, preserve our resources, along with engaging in specific landscape level conservation efforts, such as grassland restoration, which I believe Nancy may touch on later today. In addition, related to cultural resources, we have a large cultural resource program that's involved in a diversity of kind of programmatic areas, from developing materials related to park history and cultural anthropology to supporting the preservation and restoration of historical structures or cultural landscapes. And this is also the group that is involved in our tribal consultation efforts with tribal sovereign tribal nations that are on the Great Plains within the GPCESU geographic area. Now, when we think about the CESUs and the National Park Service, so they're really kind of integral to how we meet our natural and cultural resource management needs. It was born out of the Natural Resources Challenge in the late 1990s, which was really an action plan for preserving and protecting natural resources within parks. And it was in that time period that the CESUs were actually created. And the benefits to the Park Service of engaging in the CESUs are that it allows us to move money easily from relatively easily from federal hands to either universities or NGOs to allow us to get work done, right? that's meeting a strong public purpose and also has substantial agency involvement so that we can have our kind of hands and say in the research and projects that are being conducted. And there's that benefit of having the lower indirect rate, which is particularly useful for Park Service, where we don't have large sums of money that we're typically awarding in our cooperative agreements. And so that really helps extend what limited project dollars we have to meet the needs that we have on the ground. And then last, I just wanted to provide just a little bit of a kind of a very high-level overview of just how the CESU network is leveraged by NPS within the Great Plains CESU. The first project I just wanted to highlight is in the Knife River Indian Villages, and it's specific to a forest restoration project in which we're engaging North Dakota State University. There's an area that has been kind of dominated and overtaken by invasive understory vegetation, and they are going to be engaged in a restoration effort there. We also engaged the University of Wyoming as part of with the NPS Inventory and Monitoring Network to essentially monitor bat populations across parks in the northern Great Plains. This helps us understand the distribution of endangered species and endangered bat species on NPS park units. And then last, the Missouri River Recreational River utilized the CESU to expand their internship program with South Dakota State University. And this allowed us to essentially engage students in interpretive education and research activities on park unit land. And it kind of helps provide excellent education opportunities to the students while also helping expand the capacity for work and activities that are done within the recreational river. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to field any questions that you may have. We very much value the CESU collaborations, and particularly the opportunity to work with university partners to conduct work on Park Service lands.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. Any questions for Brandon?
Brandon, this is Michelle Judash from SDSU. I'm wondering who you're working with at SDSU on expanding the Missouri River internship program.
That's a great question. And I can get back with you on that. I'd have to pull up the actual cooperative agreement.
Okay, that would be great. I would love to know. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Brandon, maybe you can put your email in the comments, or
I can definitely do that.
so if anyone has follow-up questions down the road, they can look back. This is being recorded, and so we are going to have a record.